and welcome to Tabletop Thoughts. Today I thought I would take this opportunity to go through my process of creating a miniature from an STL file. Here you can see I am using Lychee. That is the slicer that I prefer. You can see my two printers I have here at the house, both listed with their different resins. All of that controls the layer thickness, the exposure time, stuff like that. There is the ability in Lychee to add different types of resin. It will connect to a server and it'll bring them up, and you can pick all the different kinds they make. You can see here I am going to select my Elegoo Mars 3 printer. It will set up the plate or the build plate. Next we are going to add files, and we are going to select the Troll Attacking STL and the supported version of this. I want to go through both, and I want to drop them onto the build plate and print them out so you can see the difference between a pre-supported file and a standard STL file. Alright, here is our standard STL file. You can see that this is the Troll Attacking, and if I position the camera below, all this area in yellow is unsupported overhang. So what I am going to do is highlight it. Some models, when you get them, they will have errors in the file. It's kind of common on a lot of the models I get. You can just tell Lychee to fix it, and it'll go through and fill in holes or any kind of structural issues that there is. And then once that's done, it'll come back and we can go to the next step. Now that our model has been fixed, if you really wanted to, you could just go over to the next step where it says prepare. I like to use medium supports, and you could just generate the supports. Lychee will do it for you automatically, and it will lift it up off the bed by, I believe I have it set to about 2 millimeters, and then it'll go through, find all of the overhangs, and it will then add supports and then the bracing between the supports. And with that done, here is our model. This would definitely just print. You could just slice this all up and send it to your printer. But if we zoom in, we see that there are some of the structure and the bracing and supports that are touching the face and a lot on the front. So what I normally like to do to avoid this, because most of the time when you're looking at the miniature, you're looking at their face, and that is, one, it's still in the first position. I will take and rotate the miniature, give it a small tilt, like sometimes between like 30 and 40 degrees. That way if it leans back, more of the face will not need supports. So what we can do now that we have leaned them back is we can go back over to prepare and regenerate the supports. It will prompt you and let you know it's going to delete all the other ones. You can just say okay, and then what it does is removes all the supports that we did add and generates brand new ones. Okay, now that it's done, we can look at our model, and you can see that it has removed most of the supports to the front. There is still that one that goes to his mouth area. We're just going to delete that. I don't think that will be needed. Most of the other ones look pretty good. As we spin and look up underneath, we can see that some of his feet, there are some spots that would be nice to have support, so we are just going to go in and manually add a few supports down here on the bottom And as you look around, you can see the yellow. That is where there were overhangs. So, you know, you can add an extra one here to the belt. And you just line up until you see the little marker kind of highlights, and then you just click the button and it adds. So as we look around, I think, yeah, maybe underneath this arm. But other than that, once we're done and happy with this, we will go on to the next step. Okay, now that we're happy with this guy, we are going to go into our folder and grab our pre-supported troll. We're going to pull him down and add him into Lychee, and it will drop him down right in the middle of the build plate, pretty much right on top of this guy. Now that they're both on our build plate, even though they're on top of each other, we could come over to the toolbar on the left side and select Arrange All. The slicer it knows the dimensions of how big each of them are, and it will determine where they need to be and automatically separate them so they're not on top of each other. Once both models are on our build plate, we can rotate this around and take a good look. It appears that the way that we set our guy up matches up pretty well with the way the modelers who actually made this supported theirs. So looks like we did a pretty good job setting those up. So what we can do, if you see both of them are listed here on our build plate, that other model will need to get fixed. But what I normally like to do is select both models, go into prepare, and I put them on a raft, which is, when you'll see, it just puts a bigger plate underneath of both of them. So it lifts them up a little bit and adds a larger plate. This does use extra material, but I find that it keeps my model sticking to the build plate better, so it is worth it. Before we go much further, we are going to select the model that still has errors, as you can see by the little mark up there, and we are going to have it fixed. So Lychee will once again go into the model and it will fix all the holes or any other issues that it has. And once that comes back, we should be ready to slice. Alright, now that our model is fixed, we are ready to create it. So we will go to export. Lychee is nice enough to tell you how long this is going to take. It tells us the different parts about, like, the resin, the printer. You can select the format it goes on for some of them. And then we will just tell it that we are going to slice it. It pops up with a commercial. If you have the paid plus version, it skips this part and goes straight to the naming convention. I do have the Pro. I have that on my main computer and I have it on my work computer, but not on this extra laptop that I'm doing this from. Once this is done, it will pop up. You can continue. It pops up for where you want to save the file. You type in the name that you want to save it as, and then it begins loading up the files, and you will get to see it building up the different layers as it goes up all the different slices it needs to create the entire file. Now that that's done and packaged up, it will be saved to our thumb drive and we will move over to our printer next. Alright, here is my printers. Right here is my Elegoo Saturn 3, next to the Elegoo Mars 3, and my Elegoo Neptune 3 Pro, which appears to be printing some miniatures in FDM. These are probably supportless miniatures from either Fat Dragon Games or Bright Minis. But here is the Mars 3. This is the printer that we had selected in the software. So this is the one that we will have to use. All we need to do is take our thumb drive, plug that into the front of the printer, go to print, find the file that has the name that we had given the sliced file. Before I actually start printing, I like to take off the lid and make sure that there is enough resin for this. It seems like we're a little low, so I will fill it up. There we go, that's a little better. Yeah, sometimes once it gets lower, it's kind of hard to get underneath the plate, so I'll just dump it on top of the plate because it's going to submerge anyways, as you will see. Alright, so let's get the cover back on it. Then we'll come down and we see the file. Mars cooking trolls attacking ×2, 5 hours. So we select that, brings it up. There they are, that's our render of them. We hit the play button, and 5 hours from now we should have 2 trolls. Alright, now that the print is completed, we can come in here. You'll notice I'm wearing gloves. You should wear gloves and some kind of mask, probably also safety glasses, just in case you would splash any of this resin. It is not good for you. But I will take a putty knife and I will unscrew the build plate from the machine, which it all slides off, and then I set it onto this little tray that I have. I just put paper towels down there to help collect any of the extra resin, and then you just kind of get your putty knife underneath the models and break them off. And then once I'm done with that, I usually go through and do a good cleaning on the build plate. I keep a little, as you can see, some paper towels in a little basket over here close by. It's always nice to be able to reach and grab them when you need them. I will wipe off the entire build plate. I do the top, bottom is nice just to keep everything clean and organized. It makes it so much easier. I also go around and wipe off any little resin that might have splashed on the outside from me taking it out. I'll screw the build plate back in, and it is off to the next step, which is cleaning. I have an Elegoo Mercury. You just drop them in. It's full with isopropyl alcohol. I set it to the clean mode, set a time, tell it to start, and it will spin for a while, cleaning off all the extra resin. The next step would have been removing the supports from these miniatures and mounting them to the bases, but I lost that footage. So we are skipping straight to the curing process. So I will have it for the cure mode. I will select amount of time, and then I have to put the yellow cover on top of this. It has a UV blocker. If it's not on there, it will not run. And when I start it, you will see the lights turn on, and it will spin the minis around for a certain amount of time using the UV light to finish the curing process. And when that is done, these guys are ready for painting.
In the ruins of a forgotten temple, something watches from the shadows. Across the forest, ancient powers gather within the druid circle. Mix and match terrain and miniatures for limitless stories. Explore detailed terrain and creatures, all ready for your next game night. Bring your tabletop world to life. Shop DM David's Prints on Etsy today.
Before I can actually paint the minis, what I like to do is sit here and I will give them a quick examination. What I'm looking for is any small pieces of support that might not have broken away. I'm looking to see if there's anything that might need some additional work. As you can see, I have both of the minis. I will go over them, finding if there's little pieces that needs to be sanded or cleaned up. Now that I've decided there is some touch-up work to do, I got these little sanding foam squares off of Temu or Amazon. They're kind of nice. They're small, but there's something to hang on to, so I can use that to go in and try to clean up any little marks or to sand off any kind of little lines or something extra that's there that I don't like. I will also use an X-Acto knife to come in and clean up any kind of little pieces that are still on there that need to be broken off. Now that the models are ready, I am going to come in with this PVA glue and I am going to apply it to the base of these miniatures. I'm going to add some flocking in that, and I'm going to do all that before I prime it because that just keeps me from having to go back and prime all the flocking afterward. Here I'm taking some of that sand that you get from the dollar stores. It's used for like crafting and stuff like that. I have a bunch of it in a jug, all different colors. I just dip the models into that. The glue will grab onto it, and now we will have a sandy base. Once those models dried, I took them outside and gave them a quick prime with Rust-Oleum 2X flat black primer. That is what I normally use to prime them. Then I brought them back inside. Once those dried, we'll put them on the table. We are going to give them a quick dry brush with white acrylic paint. That should bring out the highlights for what we're end up doing as a slap chop type paint job on these guys. I don't mind using a makeup brush on these. These guys are pretty beefy and the parts aren't really thin and fragile like you do get with some of the 28mm models. So I will just kind of go over them all with this white paint. A dry brush is really when you get paint onto your brush and then you wipe it off onto a napkin or paper towel to get most of the paint off. That way there's just a tad bit of paint in there, so when you drag it across the surface, the paint really only gets onto the highest points, which would highlight the highest levels, which would leave the deepest recesses black from the primer, and that makes it look like a shadow. Once those have dried for a while, I am going to take this sand golem speed paint from Army Painter. I'm going to drop some of that into my fidget popper, and this is going to be the color that I am going to use for the skin of the ogre. So I will just take one of my brushes and I will just start going over all of his skin. Since this is like a speed paint and I don't want to keep going over different parts, you just got to be careful when you get around the other items, like the belt right there, the rope he has wrapped around him, or his club, his tunic, or I guess he just has a loincloth. But you want to try to minimize getting paint onto the other parts, because the nice thing about these paints is they're kind of transparent, so when you apply them, it kind of separates, so a darker ink in it kind of gets down into the recesses, helping to make it look more shadowy while the thinner parts stay on top. The bad part is, since it's like transparent, you can see if you accidentally paint over something, you can't just paint another speed paint on top of that, because you will see the paint through. So if it was going to be something like a sword where you're going to paint a metallic paint that's not a speed paint, you can be a little more sloppy with your work. For the second model, I decided to use this Occultist Cloak speed paint for his skin. Where the other one was more of a yellowish brown color, this one is more of a gray color. So this would look more, I don't know, like a stonish, I'd say, color compared to the other one. Both the same model, just, you know, two different color schemes just to make them slightly different. Now we are going to go in with this Satchel Brown speed paint. We'll put that into our fidget popper, and we are going to use that to color all of the ropes that are wrapped around these trolls. It's kind of like there's the one that goes across their chest, and then there is the one that wraps around their waist as it looks like a belt that's holding up their loincloth. Now going to take this dark wood speed paint, put that into our fidget popper, and use that to paint all of the wooden clubs on these models. Going to take this magic blue speed paint. It's one of my favorite colors that they have. We are going to use that to paint the loincloth on both of these trolls. I really like how it looks on this gray guy. It really, like, I don't know, complements the gray of his skin, that blue. It's like it's all subdued, but it definitely stands out enough. I really like that combination. with the loincloth finished, these guys are getting really close to being done. Not looking too bad so far. At this point, I am going to try to add eyes to these models. I take red paint, put it on the end of a toothpick, and I use that to dab that into the eye sockets to make the red eyes. It's easier to see if I don't have my big head in the way, but I put little red dots where the eyes are. Normally monsters get red eyes, villagers, player characters, humanoids like that get white specks with a black dot in it, but yeah, monsters are always red eyes to show that they're evil. And looking at the models, I think we are going to call them done. Looking at the bases, it looks pretty good with just the black primer and the white dry brush over the stones that are on there. I will just take these models and get them a matte clear coat to protect them. But when you look at them, you cannot really tell the difference between auto supports and the ones we did manually. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this, check out the next video right here. It's packed with more great content. And as always, keep on gaming.